Welcome to the deep dive. You send us your sources, and we dig in to pull out the knowledge that really sticks. You know, the insights that might just subtly shift how you see things.
Mhm.
Today, we're diving into a transcript featuring Morgan Housel. He's the financial psychology expert whose work, well, it's clearly struck a chord with a lot of people.
Yeah, and definitely.
But our goal isn't just to rehash the stuff everyone knows. We want to really dig for those seminal insights, the ones that offer maybe a fresh angle you haven't quite considered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Housel's big ideas about the psychology of money, the long game, they're important, no doubt. But we're looking for the less obvious gems
Yeah.
in this specific conversation.
Right.
Ideas that give you a really powerful new lens on your financial world, maybe the wider economy, too. We've actually pinpointed 5 key insights from this transcript that we think really fit that bill.
Okay.
And then after that, we're going to push it even further into what we're calling the extra mile, some truly frontier thinking.
5 key insights, then the extra mile. Sounds good. All right, let's jump in. This first one. The unique controllable nature of the current tariff situation. What's the angle here?
Well, what's interesting is the contrast Hossel draws. He sets the economic disruption from tariffs apart from other big crises,
Like what?
like think about a pandemic or a sudden financial meltdown, right? Those feel huge, complex, sort of outside anyone's direct control.
Yeah, like forces of nature almost.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Tariffs, though, he argues, are fundamentally different. They are a direct result of political decisions.
Yeah.
There's like a metaphorical off switch someone could flick.
Okay. That is a different way to frame it. Usually we just lump all these big economic shifts together as the economy doing its thing.
Right.
But a tariff is a policy choice. It's not, like you said, some unforeseen event or a system collapse that's hard to pin down. There's a clearer line back to who made the call.
Precisely. And yeah, okay, the ripple effects in global trade are incredibly complex, sure. But the core action, imposing the tariff, that's a deliberate lever. It can be pulled and, theoretically reversed much more directly than, say, curing a new virus or fixing the whole global financial system after a crash.
Makes sense.
So we gave this an insight impact score of 8.75, mostly because it flags that element of agency and direct accountability in this kind of economic problem that maybe isn't always top of mind.
So for you listening, what's the actionable bit here? What do you do with that?
Well, when you're reading the news or hearing about the economy, try to mentally sort the source of the disruption. Is it coming from these huge, intricate, kind of uncontrollable systems, or is it more directly tied to policy choices, things that could, potentially be changed?
And why does that matter?
It can shape how you think about, well, civic engagement, for one. Who are the decision makers here? And it can also help you gauge the potential volatility, maybe the reversibility of impacts on your investments, especially in sectors really hit by trade policy.
Okay, yeah, that's a really practical way to think about the headlines. All right, let's move to insight number 2. This one feels particularly relevant today. True financial freedom comes more from managing what you want than just endlessly trying to get more.
It really does. And Housel uses a great example. He contrasts someone living quite comfortably on a modest income with, say, billionaires who are still stressed about money.
Right, we hear those stories.
The key idea is that financial independence isn't some fixed number on a spreadsheet. It's more of a feeling, right? A state where your resources comfortably cover your needs and your desires.
Okay.
And as he suggests, it's often way more feasible and definitely more within your control to adjust the desires part of that equation.
Yeah.
Managing your wants.
That really cuts against the grain, doesn't it? I mean, the constant message is more, bigger, better. Always strive for more.
Totally.
This flips it. It says, maybe the real power move is redefining what enough actually means for you.
Exactly. We scored this one pretty high, 9.3 for impact, because it just challenges that deep cultural script, and it offers a potentially more achievable path to financial peace, especially when you see, like, extreme wealth doesn't automatically equal contentment.
So what's the action step for the listener?
We're calling it a desire check-in, or maybe a desire audit, something like that. Take some real time to look at your financial goals.
Okay.
And for each one, ask yourself, is this something I genuinely value? Does it bring me real satisfaction? Or is it maybe driven by, I don't know, keeping up with the Joneses or external pressure? And then maybe experiment. Try some simpler pleasures, experiences that don't have a huge price tag. You might actually be surprised how much financial breathing room you can create just by consciously looking at your wants.
That's a powerful exercise. Okay, insight number 3. Saving money isn't just putting off spending for later. It's actually buying something valuable right now, independence and control. I like that framing.
It is a powerful reframe. Housel argues that every dollar you decide to save isn't just like sitting there passively waiting for a future purchase.
Right.
It's actively buying you something tangible today. He calls them tokens of independence.
Tokens of independence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Think about it. That's saved money. It creates a buffer, gives you more agency over your time.
Ah, so.
Well, maybe you feel more secure in your job knowing you have that cushion, or you feel you could explore different career paths if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
It just expands your options
Yeah.
and strengthens your ability to handle unexpected bumps in the road. The benefit, he really emphasizes this, is realized now in the present.
So less about delaying gratification, more about immediate empowerment. That psychological shift feels, well, huge.
It is.
Instead of seeing saving as this sacrifice, this chore, it becomes an active investment in your current well-being, your autonomy.
Exactly. We gave this one a really strong score, 9.55, for its impact, because it connects saving directly to that fundamental human need for control over our own lives, makes it a much more compelling reason to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the action here is pretty simple, conceptually at least. Be mindful of this when you save. When you move money into savings or investments, consciously make that connection in your head.
Like a little mantra.
Sort of. Tell yourself, okay, I am increasing my freedom right now. I'm buying more control over my future choices. I'm building a stronger sense of security. Try to really visualize the peace of mind or the potential options this money gives you today.
That simple mental switch could be a real game changer for motivation. Okay, moving on. Insight number 4. Chasing happiness can be a bit of a trap. Aiming for contentment is often more realistic and more lasting. Another important distinction.
It really is. Housel draws this clear line between happiness, which can be kind of fleeting, often tied to external stuff happening, and contentment,
Which is,
deeper, more stable, a sense of satisfaction that comes from within. He suggests contentment often comes from aligning with your own internal values, your own benchmarks, not constantly measuring yourself against others or chasing external approval.
that's the whole hedonic treadmill idea, isn't it? You get the thing, you feel happy for a bit, then you adapt, and the happiness bar just moves higher. You need the next thing.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Contentment sounds much more grounded, more sustainable. We scored this a 9.40 because, well, it's crucial for overall well-being, right? And for understanding why just chasing more often doesn't actually lead to lasting fulfillment.
Mm-hmm. So the action.
Practice regular self-reflection. Honestly, ask yourself,
Mm-hmm.
if nobody else knew about my stuff, my achievements, my lifestyle,
Yeah.
would I still feel deeply satisfied?
Oh, that's a tough one.
It is. But try to identify and really nurture those internal sources of joy.
Yeah.
The peace that doesn't depend on what others think or what you own.
Challenging, but yeah, incredibly valuable. Okay, last one for this section. Insight number 5. Growing too fast can compromise your ability to last, to bounce back. Durability versus speed. This one has a great analogy.
It really does. Housel paints this picture of a tree that shoots up super fast in an open field, gets tons of sun, grows quick. But the wood is often softer. The roots, shallow. Makes it really vulnerable to strong winds, storms, disease.
Ah, I see where this is going.
He argues a similar thing happens in business, careers, even investing sometimes. Rapid expansion can come at the cost of building a strong foundation, robust processes, deep roots to weather the tough times. There's often a trade-off, he says, between speed and durability.
That image of the tall, kind of spindly tree, it's so clear, really drives it home. And in a world that just celebrates rocket ship growth and overnight success,
Yeah.
this feels like a really important, almost cautionary note. We gave this a 9.0 for impact because it pushes back against that dominant story and offers a valuable way to think about long-term sustainable success.
Absolutely. So the action here is really for anyone experiencing that kind of rapid growth professionally, financially, whatever.
Yeah.
Be deliberate about building in periods of consolidation, meaning take the time. Strengthen your foundations, refine your systems, make sure you're building for resilience, even if it means consciously slowing down the expansion pace for a bit. Think about developing those deep roots that will keep you stable when the inevitable storms hit.
Build in pauses to solidify. Got it. Some really, really thought-provoking ideas there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've walked through the 5 key insights we pulled from the transcript.
Right.
Now, for those listeners ready to go a bit deeper, you said it's time for the extra mile.
That's right. 3 insights that we think are, well, truly cutting edge. Concepts that maybe only a pretty small number of people are really grappling with yet. Get ready to go deep.
Okay, I'm ready. What's the first one?
Our first extra mile insight, and we scored this a 9.99 for its potential impact, is wealth as a cognitive load multiplier, and the scarcity of undistracted bandwidth.
Cognitive load multiplier. Explain that. It's a new one on me.
Okay, think of it like this. Beyond a certain point, as your wealth grows, so does the sheer complexity of managing it all.
Right. More stuff to deal with.
Exactly. More decisions to make, more assets to watch, more opportunities flying at you, more potential risks to think about. All this added complexity puts a huge strain on your cognitive resources.
More brain power.
Your brain power, yeah. The mental energy you need just to keep your financial life running. So what becomes truly precious, really scarce, isn't just more money. It's your undistracted mental capacity.
Yeah.
Your ability to think clearly, make good judgments, and actually, enjoy your life without constant mental static. Financial strategies that just relentlessly chase the highest possible returns without factoring in this cognitive cost, they might actually end up being counterproductive for your well-being.
So the ultimate luxury isn't just the big bank account, it's having the mental freedom, the headspace, to actually enjoy it and make wise choices with it without being overwhelmed.
That's the core idea.
Yeah.
Exactly. The action here, then, is to actively, maybe even aggressively, simplify your financial life and your commitments, too. Ruthlessly delegate or automate the stuff that just drains your mental energy. Prioritize financial strategies that need minimal ongoing babysitting, minimal mental intervention, even if maybe they offer slightly lower theoretical returns on paper. You need to actively buy peace of mind by just saying no to opportunities that feel cognitively expensive, too overwhelming.
Wow, that really resonates. Okay, extra mile insight number 2, also a 9.99. The temporal discounting of existential financial risk sounds heavy.
It kind of is. It refers to our very human tendency to undervalue risks that are really long-term, kind of abstract, but potentially catastrophic.
Like what kind of risks?
Things like, well, widespread economic collapse, irreversible environmental damage hitting the economy hard, maybe even the displacement of human skills by super advanced AI, stuff like that.
Okay, big picture stuff.
Right. We tend to apply this really high temporal discount rate to those kinds of threats, meaning we focus way more on immediate worries, near-term market fluctuations, and we downplay these potentially civilization-altering risks, even though their long-term impact could dwarf anything else.
So we're not wired to properly value far-off disasters.
Not really, no. Building true long-term financial resilience means we need to adjust our risk assessment. We need to actually allocate some resources, some thinking, to protect against these low probability but incredibly high impact future events.
We're so caught up in the day-to-day, the short-term ups and downs, that we might be missing the slow-motion train wreck on the horizon.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. So the action here is to dedicate a small but consistent part of your overall risk management thinking to preparing for these really huge society-level disruptions.
What does that look like practically?
It could mean considering alternative asset classes, things maybe outside the traditional system, developing adaptable skills that would be valuable no matter what the future looks like, strengthening your local community networks, or even supporting initiatives trying to solve some of these global risks. The key is to start thinking in decades, systemic shifts, not just next quarter's earnings report.
That's a really sobering, but yeah, crucial perspective. All right, hit me with the third and final extra mile insight, another 9.99. Value accrual in managed decline and systemic decoupling. This sounds like it really challenges the standard growth narrative.
It absolutely does. Our dominant economic thinking is just so heavily focused on growth, 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 usually within the existing global systems.
Right, that's the default.
But what if we see increasing signs of strain in those systems, economic strain, ecological, political, whatever? This insight suggests there's potential for significant value creation and definitely risk mitigation by strategically positioning yourself outside of, or maybe alongside, the most fragile parts of those big systems.
So not just trying to find the next big growth stock within the current game.
Exactly. It's not just about picking winners in the growth race. It's about recognizing that as certain sectors, maybe certain paradigms, experience a sort of managed decline, new opportunities will pop up for those who've built resilience and can operate more independently from those declining structures.
So it's like, don't just focus on riding the wave of growth, but also think about building lifeboats or finding more stable ground entirely in case the existing structures start getting shaky.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, building lifeboats, finding stable ground. The action here is to diversify not just your investments across asset classes, but also diversify your reliance on potentially fragile systems.
Systemic diversification.
Right. Invest in skills, knowledge, Maybe assets that would hold their value even if the mainstream economy or supply chains got seriously disrupted. Look for opportunities in areas focused on resilience, regeneration, maybe localized solutions. Think about how you might not just survive, but potentially even thrive in a world going through some really big transitions.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot to chew on. From understanding the nuances of tariffs all the way to finding value in systemic shifts. We've definitely covered some serious ground today.
We really have. We went from some of those more accessible but maybe still overlooked insights in households work, all the way to these frontier concepts that really make you question fundamental assumptions about wealth, risk, the future.
And that's really the goal of the deep dive, isn't it? To take you, our listener, beyond just the surface level, give you knowledge, insights that genuinely spark those aha moments, maybe even shift your thinking a bit.
Precisely. That's the aim.
So as you go about your day, maybe mull this over. How might internalizing just one of these less obvious insights, whether it's that immediate freedom saving buys you or the cognitive load that wealth can create, or even these bigger systemic ideas, how might that reshape how you approach your finances, how you see the world around you, and
Mm-hmm.
definitely encourage you to explore these concepts further on your own. Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.